This show is brought to you by Beco Dairy Automation. You have tuned in to the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine, your 1 hour all-dairy connection. We call it the Dairyman's source for new ideas, information, and technology, mixed with a double dose of current market conditions. The what, the why, and the how things influence the amount of money dairy producers receive for their daily milk deliveries. We offer this daily News Hour magazine as a catalyst to make long-term dairy producers sustainable. We invite every dairy producer in America to get their daily dose of what can be done and what they can do to achieve and maintain profitability on their farms. $22 for 36 months is our goal. We advocate there is a way forward. We invite dairy producers to come listen, to learn, and to participate. This is a no complaint zone. We talk solutions. So get out your pen and paper. Here is your host of the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine, Tom Van Noortwyk, owner of Agribusiness Publications, publisher and editor of the Agribusiness Dairyman magazine.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine. It is Monday, February the 29th, 2016. We welcome you to our broadcast this morning as we do our level best to try and provide more news, ideas, innovation, technology, and the markets. As Stuart always says, a double dose of the markets is good for all of us, in my opinion, because that is where it's all at. Price per hundredweight that dairy producers are receiving. We have a goal in our world of $22 per hundredweight for 36 months in a row. And so the good news in coming to this News Hour broadcast on this Monday morning, on this important day of the year, it's leap year. Leap year coincides most of the time with the election year. And this is our extra day. This is our day that either you can earn more money or have a little more time to pay the rest of the bills, one or the other. I'm not sure which, but I like the opportunity that's given to us. Today's cover story is going to be on the inventories. The inventory reports came out late last week, and this commentary offered by Serena Sharp of the Dairy Daily Report. You can see her stuff or communicate with her, Serena at dailydairyReport.com. But always does a great job. We receive this report on a regular basis through the newsletter provided by Milk Producers Council here in California. Their general manager, Rob Van Den Heuvel, has always been supportive of us and the efforts we have tried to put forward in behalf of dairy producers. But let's get right to the chase this morning. We will be joining Ron O'Brien shortly, but the news of the day is somewhat typical of what we saw last week, but we're going to go through it, and we're just going to keep hammering this until we all get it. Serena says this: the cold, hard numbers from USDA's cold storage report weighed heavily on the dairy products market. U.S. cheese inventories grew at a normal 2.8% pace in January, but that growth represents an addition to already burdensome supplies. At 1.18 billion pounds, domestic cheese stocks are up 12.8% from a year ago, and that is the highest January volume since 1985, 21 years ago. And she adds the day of neon and government cheese. That disappointing news pushed CME spot cheddar barrels down to $140.05 per pound, its lowest price in more than 5 years. The cheese market managed a late week comeback, but still finished lower than last Friday. Spot cheddar barrels closed at $1.43, down a nickel on the week. Blocks ended at $1.48, down 0.75 cents. Most cheese and Class 3 futures scored life of contract lows this week, although they too rallied on Thursday and Friday. March through November, Class 3 futures settled between 19 and 64 cents lower than last week, and deferred contracts, which had been more steadfast than their nearby counterparts over the past few months, were particularly weak. The cold storage report was even more disappointing. On the butter front, inventories grew 41 million pounds from December, a much larger than expected increase of 26.5% at 196 million pounds. Butter stocks were up 31.7 from January 2015. So just huge numbers, gang, just huge. Supplies are more than adequate to meet Easter demand, and churns are running heavily. There is no reason to expect a run-up to $3, as was the case in each of the past 2 years. In fact, this week the CME spot butter price slipped 7.75 cents to $1.9775, its first foray below $2 since July of last year, 2015. The milk powder market posted another tepid rebound this week. Spot non-fat dry milk closed at 76 cents, up 2 cents from last Friday. Under pressure from the butter market, first half Class 4 futures dropped between 15 and 30 cents, but deferred contracts moved higher. Second half Class 4 futures were likely buoyed by news that China has taken a big step back into the dairy products market. China milk powder imports in January totaled 338.8 million pounds, up 161% from a year ago, and just shy of the all-time record set 2 years before. China also bought 21.6 million pounds of foreign cheese and curd in January, their highest monthly volume ever. 1 month does not necessarily signal a change in trend, and the relatively early Lunar New Year may have boosted January imports at the expense of February. However, if China's appetite for imported dairy is indeed recovering, it could help to more quickly, rein in the world's burdensome dairy product inventories to less crippling volumes. Even so, the dairy industry's path to recovery remains uncertain, and the pain is likely to be prolonged by robust milk output in Europe. Milk collections in December totaled 27.4 billion pounds in the 28 nations of the Eurozone, assuming steady year-over-year production in Croatia, up 4.9% from December of 2014. For the year, European milk output was up 2.2% greater than 14 and up 7.2% from 13. Production growth is the strongest in the Netherlands and Ireland, but Germany stepped up milk output in December by 6.2% compared to the year before. Germany dairy producers enjoyed a mild December, which likely boosted production per cow. Still, the accelerated growth in Europe's largest dairy nation represents a concerning circumstance for a world already awash in milk. We're watching the clock for Mr. O'Brien, but we'll get to him in a moment. Let's see if we can finish up Serena's initial commentary. For the week ending February 13, dairy cow slaughter totaled 61,811, down 3% from the same week a year ago. For the year-to-date, dairy cow slaughter is less than 1% behind, 0.9% behind 2015 pace. Grain markets, Mark 1 futures dropped a dime this week to $3.55.5 per bushel, near the low set in early January. March soybeans plunged 23.25 to $8.55, also near the January lows. Prospects for U.S. Crop exports are waning. U.S. export shipments disappointed this week, and soybeans in Brazil are hitting the ports. Private analysts in South America are steadily raising their expectations for the corn and soybean yields, and harvest is well underway in some areas. Crop prices are likely to remain low throughout the year. There is always the possibility that prices will climb along with the temperature this summer. Indeed, as we transition from El Niño to La Niña, the potential for a hot summer is elevated this year. Still, global inventories are large enough to meet demand even if this year's crop is an absolute disaster. With that in mind, and assuming normal weather, USD exports on-farm corn prices to on-farm corn prices to average $3.45 per bushel in 2016-17 crop year, down 15 cents from 2015-16. The agency expects soybean prices to average $8.50 this year, down from $8.80 last season. Okay, so there's a quick cover of the markets from Serena Sharp, and she does a great job, and thank you for that analysis. We're going to get to Mr. O'Brien here shortly. Let's grab this. This is always tricky at best. Let's call him. And good morning to everyone that has just joined us. This is the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine.
Is your milking equipment holding your dairy back? Are you still milking with 5/8-inch dairy equipment that became popular 35 years ago? Your dairy's production and milking goals have changed. Shouldn't your dairy equipment be able to meet the same goals? Beco Dairy Automation can help with industry-leading, innovative dairy equipment that eliminates all restrictions in the milk path of your milking parlor. Eliminating the restrictions in the milk path improves production, milking flow rates, parlor throughput, and ultimately better udder health for your cows. Beco Dairy Automation is your partner for success, delivering unrestricted, durable, and profitable milking equipment to today's commercial dairy. To learn more, call us today at 1-800-344-7166 or check out our website at www.becoKnows.com.
All right, Ron, thank you very much for the Blocks and Barrels trades this morning. Then we'll now be joining Ron O'Brien and the CME for the powder trades this morning. Powder up a little bit at the end of last week and starts the morning on that trend. We'll be back as soon as the powder trades are over. You are tuned into the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine, your 1-hour all-dairy connection. We appreciate Ron O'Brien, Senior Global Strategist for Interfoods, and his help with the trades at the CME this morning. Powder trades active this morning, product moving at least. Not much movement in price, but pressure up a little bit today, which is great. And then we'll be joining Ron O'Brien with the butter trades at about 5 minutes after the hour. Well, let's stay with us here, and we'll be right back after this message.
Hello, I'm Eva Strang, Education Coordinator for the Allied Milk Producers. Cereal and milk have always been a mainstay for breakfast, at least since 1882. That's when the first commercially manufactured cereal was made by Henry Perky. It was called shredded wheat, and it's still with us today as one of the most popular cereals. Remember, breakfast is probably the most important meal of the day, and a good breakfast includes nutritious dairy foods like milk on cereal. A good way to start the day.
Is your milking equipment holding your dairy back? Are you still milking with 5/8-inch dairy equipment that became popular 35 years ago? Your dairy's production and milking goals have changed. Shouldn't your dairy equipment be able to meet the same goals? Beco Dairy Automation can help with industry-leading, innovative dairy equipment that eliminates all restrictions in the milk path of your milking parlor. Eliminating the restrictions in the milk path improves production, milking flow rates, parlor throughput, and ultimately better udder health for your cows. Beco Dairy Automation is your partner for success, delivering unrestricted, durable, and profitable milking equipment to today's commercial dairy. To learn more, call us today at 1-800-344-7166 or check out our website at www.becoKnows.com.
We express appreciation for our sponsors and the support that we receive in helping us bring the markets news and information to dairy producers across the country. Our cover story this morning, as we started out, was the focus that we need to place on growing inventories, and what's causing those growing inventories is another example of the impact it's having here and abroad. This story out of New Zealand. New Zealand has revised its break-even milk price for the average New Zealand dairy farmer down 15 cents to $5.25 per kilogram of milk solids. Due to favorable weather conditions, production has been higher than initially forecast, leading to lower costs per kilogram of milk solids, the organization says. Yet even at $5.25, the break-even price is well above Fonterra's seemingly optimistic forecast farm gate milk price at $4.15 per kilogram of milk solids for the current season. ASB economists cut their milk price forecast by 20 cents to $3.90, gang, $3.90. Break-even, $5.25, milk price, $3.90. Following prices falling for the fourth consecutive time at the fortnightly Global Dairy Trade Auction on February 17, and which a new one will be coming up very shortly. The Global Dairy Trade Index fell by 2.8%, while the key whole milk powder price fell a further 3.7%. Westpac economists trimmed their milk price forecast earlier this month by 20 cents to $4, while ANZ economists slashed theirs by 30 cents to $3.95. As for the 2016-17 season, Westpac has dropped the forecast to just $4.60, ANZ $5, and Westpac is at $6. How can they be so far off? We talked about that last week. $1.40 in their spread. Or 140 in the New Zealand Australian currency. Wow. And of course, all of it caused by excess milk production, leading to excess inventories. And of course, China back in and bought. Whoa, that was a nice thing to hear about China's buy. But of course, China's going to buy. They got it now for half price. They bought a ton of it, fast and furious, at a very low price. Half price, literally half price of what it was.
Settlement was $197.75
at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, courtesy of Ron O'Brien of
Yeah. Posting. First call. Second call. Third. 96.5 offer by BJM. About $1.25. Posting. First call. Second call. Third. Close. All right, so I'm going to settle right there at 196.5. Down $1.25. 2 loads straight at total.
Move over, Manny, Mo, and Jack. For quick, convenient auto service and no appointment needed, ask for G Express service from Groppetti Automotive in Visalia. We'll guarantee an oil and filter change in as little as 39 minutes. And there's more. Need your tires rotated? A brake job? Even a 15,000-mile service? There's no appointment necessary, and we'll guarantee your service time. G Express. It's a new level of convenience you'll only find at Groppetti Automotive.
Is your milking equipment holding your dairy back? Are you still milking with 5/8-inch dairy equipment that became popular 35 years ago? Your dairy's production and milking goals have changed. Shouldn't your dairy equipment be able to meet the same goals? Beco Dairy Automation can help with industry-leading, innovative dairy equipment that eliminates all restrictions in the milk path of your milking parlor. Eliminating the restrictions in the milk path improves production, milking flow rates, parlor throughput, and ultimately better udder health for your cows. Beco Dairy Automation is your partner for success, delivering unrestricted, durable, and profitable milking equipment to today's commercial dairy. To learn more, call us today at 1-800-344-7166 or check out our website at www.becoKnows.com.
All right, Ron, thank you so much for your help with the blocks and barrels, the powder, and the butter trades this morning. Butter, again, lower on pressure from inventories rising and milk continuing to flow in, not only domestically but around the world. We talked a little bit about the impact and the news this morning, just to give you a feel for what we're seeing on the news wire this morning. Stress levels are high in dairy industry, and dairy downturn is likely to get worse before it improves. First, milk farmers see further cuts as dairy crest producers offered make or break contract choices. Volume control and promotion, key parts of the dairy recovery. No kidding. We just woke up to that one. Improve Fonterra facility to process 4 times more milk than Glanbia's Bellevue plant. Now, why do we throw that in there? And it's important that we do, because what you got to understand, guys, is that they're positioning themselves to process more milk. They want more milk, more efficiency, greater volumes than ever before, and so when you make this milk, they're handling it okay. The problem is you're not getting paid for it. And so the answer to that is to short the market. You don't have to give them milk you can't afford to produce, which erodes your pay price to below break-even numbers. We're seeing that all over the place. Everybody's getting paid less than what it costs to make it. Okay? And these are not your enemies, but these are certainly opposing forces, because the processors want the highest possible capacity, the most volume of milk possible at the lowest possible price. Okay? And then they're out there when they can't get it cheap enough from you in the domestic marketplace, U.S., then they're out buying butterfat from the global market at the lowest possible price, which is in some cases a whole lot less than yours. And instead of utilizing the butter, milk products, and whatnot that we have here in the United States, they go elsewhere to get what they got to get because it's just plain cheaper. And then there's this, just to add, that things are not going to get different. India milk contributes close to 1/3 of gross income of rural households, and those without land nearly half. That'd be an interesting article to read. I'm going to probably close with that, because I want you to know that this India-China deal, relative to who's going to make the most milk, is going to be a game changer long-term for this global marketplace, and why we're going to shift a ton of attention, time, and energy towards growing our domestic market. We have a lot of people in America that are not receiving milk products today, or not using all they would like to have because they can't get it. And then we're also providing a milk product out there in 49 states, which is not, and hasn't been for decades, fortified to California standards. So we're putting out a product that doesn't taste as good as we could, and it doesn't have or provide the nutritional levels that we could be providing to our consumers. And so when you add those two things together, fortification would improve utilization by 15% of national production. Getting milk products and commodities into the hands of 49 to 65 million Americans who today do not have an adequate supply of dairy in their diets, not like they would want or, in fact, nutritionally need, that represents more than 15.4 and maybe even as much as 25% increase in the total consumption of milk products in America. Put 2 and 2 together there. That's 15.4 plus 15. That's 30.4. And it could be higher if we really are as low as we think we are, or the number as high as we think it is, of the number of Americans who don't get all the dairy they would like to have. Now, how do we get it to them and still make money? I don't have all those answers yet, and neither do dairy producers. But I know one thing's for sure. We've got a lot of excess cheap material right now that is high quality, great tasting, okay? And our consumers, our American consumers, are not getting all they want. And then Iran Dairy, here's another one. I think India's a problem. Iran Dairy Industry Society said first shipment of Iranian dairy products will be deployed to Russia within weeks. Boy, European Union's got to be thrilled about that, because what's happened? The European Union is on the poop list in Russia. Russia's not buying from them, so they're out looking for other places to put their milk, which is right into the marketplace of where the U.S. milk used to go, and New Zealand milk used to go, and Australian milk used to go. And who makes a whole lot of milk right now? The European Union. Who's increasing their milk production right now? The European Union. Okay, so there's a lot of competition. India is going to, can you imagine that? India milk contributes close to 1/3 of gross income of rural households. Is that a big deal to them to make more milk? I think so. I do. All right, and then we got this stupid one. Oh my gosh. If this is true, somebody needs their butt kicked up between their ears. Walmart, Kraft sued over selling Parmesan cheese with wood pulp filler. Unbelievable. Vinamilk strikes $12.5 million deal to export baby formula to the Middle East. Vinamilk, I wonder who that is. I'll have to look into that. Global influences are gigantic in this business, guys. But it's not in your favor. It's not for you. Australia's biggest milk processor, Murray Goulburn, has confirmed it will miss the profit forecast from its prospectus. Yep. Murray Goulburn, and the next line, Murray Goulburn, same company, planning a $260 to $300 million expansion of its Koroit factory. They're going to miss their the projections they've had for gross profit to their stockholders, but they're going to put $260 to $300 million into expansion of capacity. Bigger tanks, more places to put more milk, because they know what dairy producers are going to do. Okay, the European Union, here's another news article, which is made up of 28 countries, exports 21.2 billion of agricultural goods to the U.S. annually. Didn't know that. 21.2 billion of ag goods to the U.S. annually. Okay? And then EU won't compromise on antibiotics and hormones in U.S. trade talks. This U.S. trade deal gets weirder and weirder. The U.S. Corn Ag Outlook Forum sheds light on corn market. Okay, well, corn's just going to stay soft for a while. We're making plenty. We've got lots of competition globally for crops. We read that this morning. Serena's report was very replete with all of that. So, dairy producers, there is a lot you can do. And I would, our report this morning on this last day of February, the added day in the 2016 year that we all have, it would be wise to use it to learn all you can at my-dairyman.com. You can go to www.dairypricing.org, even on the National Dairy Producer Organization site, and I think that's .org, nationaldairyproducers.org. You will find a great deal of information about what dairy producers could be doing. I think the best advice that you were given was given by a dairy producer out of California who said, work with your neighbor. Cooperate one with another and find a plan. Do something. But this plan, this same old stuff that you guys always do, that plan's not working very good, and it ain't going to work. China's going to continue to buy. They are going to be buying, but there's so much out there. It's so cheap. Of course they're going to buy it. And they're going to buy a ton at a time, a bunch at one time, 168%. I mean, this was the record month in January. Okay, a record month for them. As predicted, hate to say it, but they're going to come in and buy. But they're going to buy on the cheap because they can. Because we've done nothing to prepare ourselves to maintain $22 for 36 months. We can domestically. It's going to have to get done. And you're going to have to come to a point in time where you separate domestic production and utilization from global. You can't go that low. These people in India, on the way they do it, and we're going to finish with that article because I think it drives home the sheer mass of what, India, there will come a time when India could likely, China's done a little bit with the second child policy to boost their population. But India could very well pass them up as the number one largest population in the world, in India. Okay? And then this article that says 1/3 of their income in rural India, okay, is coming from their milk offerings, their milk production. Okay, to produce per animal productivity, the government, and dang it, we got to quit that. The government in budget 2016-17 should consider investment made in the organized dairy farming sector as part of CSR, okay? And then, I don't know what CSR is, but we're going to learn about India's milk production and their goals as a country, because as we've identified in the perspective, the publisher's perspective for March 2016, in the Agribusiness Dairyman magazine, which is available to you at my-dairyman.com, these governments in the 7, 8, 10 countries are just as committed as anyone to pour tax dollars into government bucks into promoting, expanding, and maintaining a vibrant milk production sector, processing sector, and even an export sector. 97% of everything New Zealand produces goes export. Australia not far behind that. They have a larger population than New Zealand, but China needs to make more milk for who? For their people. India needs to make more milk for who? Their people. And of course, we have been blessed by the fact that they're still net importers of dairy products. But those things are going to change. Let's read this article before we finish here on the morning. We appreciate the opportunity to pass these things along and hopefully give you a different perspective than you're hearing anywhere else. All this glad handing that you're hearing from everybody else about how short this thing's going to be, it ain't going to be short. I mean, China could surprise us all. And if they bought that much every month, it's still, you guys will feel vindicated in your production numbers.
As dairy farmers watch profits slip away and a wonderful way of life painfully comes to an end for future generations, Dairy Pricing Association sees a brighter future simply by having a solution. These dairy pricing farmer members in 10 states and growing have figured out a way. Government handouts are not the answer. It's time for farmers to take matters in their own hands. Dairy Pricing Association is asking for farmers to contribute 10 cents per hundredweight to buy surplus dairy products to create a floor price, as well as helping relieve hunger in America. This is a win-win. As dairy farmers, we watch markets fluctuate as much as $4 per hundredweight in 1 month's time. 10 cents is nothing. Imagine being able to curb another 2009 scenario simply by controlling the floor price that you need as a dairy farmer to stay in business. With the dairy products that you as a dairy pricing member purchase, thousands of people are fed. No government assistance is needed. Rather, simply you as a dairy farmer are helping yourself by helping others. For more information, visit online dairypricing.org.
The time for picnics and backyard barbecues is here. Schedule as many as you can because, well, the cold weather months, they just last too long. Make your cookouts and picnics extra special by including lots of delicious dairy products. Cheese for those hamburgers, cheese cubes to snack on, Frosties and ice cream to top off your cookout or picnic. Not only are these dairy products fun foods, they're downright delicious and nutritious. Presented by the Allied Milk Producers.
All right, we wanted to cover, last but not least, today is the what's going on in. Let's just take a look at India today. The development and growth of dairy sector in India has been the most successful of all the agroeconomic programs ever undertaken anywhere in the world. There have been two notable investments: funds invested through dairy cooperatives between 1970 and 1998. It's called Operation Flood. And the decision, a policy investment to liberalize the dairy sector that had until 1991 been restricted. These have contributed to consistency in growth of milk production that has averaged 4% during the last 3 decades. That's almost like Americans. 4% per year for the last 3 decades. Now, what you have to understand about this is that that's just sheer volume. 4% growth of anything in India, like China, and even in the U.S. market, is a big deal. It's a lot of milk. It's a lot of extra milk. And I hope it's, the blessings of that are passed along to the people there. Because, all of us see these things in India and you go, oh my gosh, how in the world do those people live under those conditions? They're all people. They're all good people. Not all good people, but they're good people. And they live on some of the most unbelievable, crowded conditions, difficult third world in some parts. I've never been there. And I've only seen what we have all seen for the most part. But I digress. Here's the article. As the government has invested through Operation Flood, the private sector has more than matched that investment. It has made India the top milk producer. The livestock sector accounts for 28 to 30% of GDP of agriculture. Milk contributes close to a third of gross income of rural households, and the case of those without land, and in the case of those without land, about half of their gross income. About 68 million rural households, of which 3/4 are landless. Marginal or small farmers are engaged in milk production. Can you imagine that? They don't have land, okay, but they're milking a cow. Let's read that again. Milk contributes close to a third of gross income of rural households, and in the case of those without land, nearly half. About 68 million rural households, of which 3/4 are landless, marginal or small farmers, are engaged in milk production. 68 million rural households, gang. That's a lot. If that's only one cow, that's a big deal. There's only 9.4 million milking cows in America, 6.7 or 6.4 in New Zealand, and they got 68 million rural households engaged in milk production. The distribution of rural income is very low for the dairy sector, indicating that ownership and income is more evenly distributed, and the progress in this sector will result in a balanced development of the rural economy. Milk ensures food security, nutritional security, and security for life in rural India. Owning a cow or a buffalo and producing milk acts as an effective barrier against farmer subsidies. I mean, this is existence, guys. This is existence level farming and milking. And good for them, because self-reliance is better than, like he says, than farmer subsidies. And we should all go there. Self-reliance is much better than government. And this is on a micro scale, a very micro economy on these houses, these homes, these families. multiple children, more than one, not like in China. The Indian population grows because there are more than one child per household. And that's a blessing too. More kids is better, but you got to be able to feed them, and that's what they're trying to do. These parents are milking cows or a buffalo. There is one serious weakness in the activity of milk production. Indian cows and buffaloes are amongst the least productive. To improve per animal productivity in budget year 2016-17, the government should consider investment made in the organized dairy farming sector as part of CSR. Now, and I don't know what CSR stands for. We're going to learn here, I hope. It would make large corporates invest in tech-backed dairy farming in a big way. This would help small farmers learn newer techniques of dairy farming. The budget must consider declaring income from such mechanized dairy farms as income from agriculture, as provided under the Income Tax Act. So they must tax them differently when it comes from agriculture. It seems. That's just a wild guess. And here we go. They tell us, income from agriculture is exempt from income tax, but organized farms that produce milk are not. So there's going to be resistance because nobody likes paying taxes. The government does not get any income from milk production, as most of it is from smallholders, and others somehow evade it. Milk production from organized dairy must be declared agricultural income. In 2013, dairy farmers got the best ever price for milk. This was because of global demand, resulting in large dairy exports from India, guys, okay? From India. It means that dairy exports on a large scale benefit milk producers, but do not hurt consumers. And the dairy sector is moving towards creating temporary market surplus of skim milk powder and other products. The Central Dairy Development Department granted R-176 crore to corporate dairies in October of 2015 to process the skim milk powder nearing expiry, E-X-P-I-R-Y. Interesting. While cooperatives would get relief, the sector would accumulate surplus skim milk powder and lead to a fall in prices. No way. Supply doesn't affect price, does it? Not in dairy. There's no problem. Always plenty of supply. Good prices, right? Wrong. Even in India, they worry about what? Supply. And lead to a fall in prices. Budget fiscal year 17 must provide the same amount of subsidy to revive exports. Okay? Here you are, guys. You're not just competing against 68 million cows or more. What if they have two? Holy cow. Luckily, they're not producing very much milk per cow because they probably don't have that good a feed. If you don't have any land, you got some people milking these cows with no land. What kind of feed's the cow getting, or the buffalo? In India, all agri-produce is supported through MSP, but milk is left out. Budget fiscal year 17 must pay attention to this. It may be difficult to operate on MSP, mechanism for milk, but market intervention through creation of a butter stock of skim milk powder and butter should not be difficult. The government must appoint the National Dairy Development Board as this is a government policy kind of being recommended here. And we don't know the ramifications of all this, but they're saying another way of liquidating surplus skim milk powder is to purchase surplus milk and powder from dairy plants and channelize it to the midday meal scheme. And see, there's a midday milk scheme, mid-day milk scheme. And I'm sure scheme isn't meant to be bad here, as sometimes we talk about scheming in America. This is probably where they're trying to get people, and children in particular, to be able to afford, or the government get involved and provide a midday meal. Okay, central sales tax charged at 2% on dairy products must be reduced to 0. Some plants manufacture low cholesterol GHEE, a healthier option for cooking. Taxes on it are in the range of 5% to 12.5%. Low cholesterol G should be exempt from tax to promote it in the National Health Campaign. Value-added tax is charged at 5% on SMP and chaka, raw material for shrinkhand. Again, these things we just don't know yet, but we're going to learn. And 12.5% on table butter, cream, etc. All milk products should be charged at a uniform rate of 5%. There is no tax on milk, but value-added taxes is charged on ultra high temperature processed milk due to its longer shelf life. UHT, ultra high temperature milk. I should say ultra high temperature processed milk is best catered to the requirements of defense forces and people living in remote areas where availability and refrigeration facilities are poor. To provide relief in these areas, value-added tax on ultra-high temperature milk should be withdrawn. And the author of this article is chairman of Quality Limited, but spelled with a K, WALITY Limited. Views are personal. And this individual that wrote this is a gentleman, I don't know gentleman or lady, but anyway, R.S. Kahana, Khanna, and I apologize for the mispronunciation. Well, there's an interesting perspective, gang. A whole other world of milk with 68 million households who own at least one cow and are involved in milk production for themselves and export. And how's the government going to grow that? And how's the government need to invest? And how are they going to tax it? Subsistence level, but it's a big driver. If you staying alive and feeding your family, and it does depend on milk production and the profitability from that milk production, would you do things different? Well, there's a perspective for you on this, the 29th day of February, 2016. It is leap day in leap year, and a good day it is to be involved in the dairy business for some. But there's a lot of things to do and to overcome. We recommend a way forward. Visit our website at my-dairyman.com and learn how, by reading the Agribusiness Dairyman magazine, how dairy producers have organized a way forward. And we, as a media company, are simply bringing you the news, ideas, and information necessary for you to make a change in the way you've always done things. It doesn't have to be this way. We can achieve $22 for 48 months. It's a simple process of being market responsive to milk production on the farm, being prepared to reduce these inventories and give of your excess to people in need through the Feeding America and other food for the needy organizations in this country, promoting more consumption by making a better tasting, more nutritious milk product, and fortifying milk to California standards nationwide would and could provide a 30% of national production opportunity to dairy producers in America, a 30% production growth opportunity. That's worth going after. We'll continue to pursue this effort and bring you more news and information in the days and weeks ahead. This has been the Agribusiness Dairyman News Hour magazine. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back on Tuesday morning. It'll be the 1st of March at 8:30 a.m. in the Pacific Zone, at 11:30 a.m. in the East. Until then, have a safe day and goodbye.
To learn or hear more, please join us for our daily News Hour magazine, your 1 hour all-dairy connection. It is broadcast live every morning at 8:30 a.m. Pacific and 11:30 a.m. Eastern. You can join the broadcast by calling 712-432-0900. Your conference PIN number is 666632#, or you can listen to the recorded call by dialing 712-432-0990, using your same PIN number for personal access. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, and on YouTube. We truly believe you need to and can know more. Our job is to deliver more knowledge to dairy producers, believing that if knowledge is power, then applied knowledge is nuclear power. We'll see you on the call.